So I'm here to give you ideas just what a makerspace is and what it's for and kind of what it means to our community. Now you may have never heard of makerspace before, and that's completely okay. You might just be here because you're just sitting here for the last guy, and that's completely fine. Because I'm really excited to kind of show you what makerspaces are about and kind of why they're really important to our community as a whole. So the great thing about makerspace is if you've never even heard of one before, you kind of already have an idea of what it really is. Because I feel like if I were to ask you, what do you think a makerspace is, you'd probably say something like, well, it's a space where things are made or people make things or something. And you'd be absolutely right. I would say probably about 40% of what makes up a makerspace is that people are making things in that space. I think the other question though is like, well, what is going on in places like a hackerspace? What are they doing there? Or what's happening over at Tech Shop? What are those guys doing at Tech Shop? Or what about a Fab Lab? What's happening at the street across with the Fab Lab? Well, the good news is these are really all just other names for makerspaces. So the real question is, what are people making in this space? And so it becomes a little bit more complicated because we have to take a couple things into consideration. We have to think about funding and location, right? So makerspaces can be in all kinds of different locations. They can be in classrooms, so they can actually be in public classrooms. They can be in public libraries. They can be at universities. They can just be inside warehouses, or like our situation, they could literally be right across the street from us right now. So makerspaces are kind of all over the place, and they're kind of popping up everywhere. So let's go back to the scenario where maybe we have a makerspace in a classroom that doesn't have a lot of funding. Maybe there's kind of working with recycled materials. There's trying to get things done with maybe like old electronics. Some really cool stuff can actually be done with recycled stuff. So here we actually have a group of middle schoolers making functional stringed instruments by just using twine, PVC pipes, and cardboard tubes. And you can see this is after they've already made their drums that were just out of pieces of wood and some duct tape wrapped around it. And they all work. They work perfectly well. So again, let's say you're just working with recycled materials. So these are actually fantastic because I think honestly one of the best ways to learn how something works is just to take something apart, right? And then once you take something apart, you can actually use those materials to make something new again. So for example, this is actually a laser paper engraver and cutter made from old DVD burners. So here you can actually see it working. This is actually a time-lapsed video, obviously, so it's a really slow process. We're working with a really low wattage laser, but it's fantastic because it actually works. And sometimes not having the funding can actually be a great thing because it forces you to innovate and it forces you to try to come up with creative ways to solve your problems while having access to that multi-thousand-dollar technology. So let's say, again, let's go back to that same classroom, right? So maybe all you can actually do is give your kids Legos. Legos are fantastic. They're a fantastic way to make things. They're a fantastic way to brainstorm. And if you actually are able to give your kids, say like the Mindstorm set Legos, that's even better. Because then you can do crazy stuff like make a custom cookie icing delivery device and actually have it do all your icing for you on your cookies. And the great thing is this particular design is actually open source, so if you had that set, you could actually have people then build this and actually learn how to make things from that. Now, if we wanted to make something, say, a little bit more practical, right? So this is actually, again, some of the same Mindstorm set. This is actually a 3D milling machine that can actually mill out green styrofoam that's commonly used for floral projects and actually take a 3D file and just use this blade undulating up and down, up and down, up and down, and actually make really cool 3D stuff from it. And again, I don't know if you noticed at the top that time lapse. This is about like a 3 or 4 hour process, but still, it's really cool to do something from a Mindstorm set. It's actually also really surprising the amount of detail you can actually get just from this. So another great thing that you can find in MakerSpace, even in the classroom, is coding. Coding is completely free. It costs absolutely nothing. It doesn't take up any space. And another great thing is if you really dive into coding, say you want to make apps, you want to make games, right now the average wage of a programmer is around $80,000. So it's a great career path, and MakerSpace is a great place to expose people to things like coding. But let's say that you don't want to have a career in coding. Maybe you just want to kind of tinker around and play with stuff. You can still actually work with Arduino, which is actually another way to work with coding, but it's also a way to actually work with data from our actual lives. So you can actually hook up sensors and traditional electronics to actually collect the data and then do some fun stuff. So if you actually want to build weather stations or robots or any kind of crazy stuff, this is what an Arduino is for. Or say you wanted to build some crazy donation box that flashed and accepted bills and coins and rotated these giant 3D printed cubes, you could also use an Arduino to do that too. So right now, one of the most common pieces of technology we find in a makerspace is actually a 3D printer. So 3D printers have gotten huge in the past, say, 10 years or so, and now they've reached a low enough price point that even like our makerspaces there in classrooms and libraries are actually able to afford them to actually give this technology to kids and adults, actually. So the great thing about 3D printers is they're a great way to teach kids CAD modeling, which is, again, a great career path to get into. Then all of a sudden, kids can start designing things like they can start making their own toys, or maybe some invention that they come up with. And then when you look at adults can also start making their own toys and inventions that they can come up with. But they're also fantastic for people who want to prototype things. Sometimes you actually want to hold something in your hand before you have it mass manufactured, and 3D printing is fantastic for that. So you can kind of see here we have a 3D printer. It's kind of a slow process. There's several different kinds out there. This particular kind is pretty much a computer-controlled hot glue gun. It's just going to melt that plastic and go back and forth, and you kind of see from this example, depending on the size, it can be a really, really slow process. But at the same time, you can produce things that you can't find anywhere else, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to make you watch this whole video. It will take a really long time. So another thing we need to think about when we talk about makerspaces is actually education. So education is a really big part of makerspaces, and it's kind of almost, more importantly to point out, it's almost a form of anti-education. So in a makerspace, we don't really have true right and wrong answers. We kind of more establish a system of, did it work? No? Okay, we'll try it again. And then let's do that over and over as many times as we need to until you get the results that you want. And that's a fantastic way, because we've been brought up through a traditional school system where, again, we're taught this is right, this is wrong. And failing's bad, where failing is really important to learning. It's absolutely one of the best ways to learn. How many times are you going to fail at something before you do it again? I usually take 5 or 6 or 7 times myself, depending on what I'm doing. But again, everyone has a limit of how many times you're going to fail until you get it right. So a great thing about makerspaces is they all have classes that their interests are whatever you want to do. So if you want to go in, you want to learn coding, you can go take just one class and learn how to code. If you want to go learn how to use a laser cutter, you can use just a laser cutter and then make your projects and go on your day. Or you can take access to the whole space and you can use everything. And the great thing about these makerspaces is that they work on sort of like a gym membership. So you can actually pay a monthly or annual fee, go into these places, and then use any equipment that you've already been trained on. Which also kind of brings us to the next point. So what's the big difference between just a garage and a makerspace, right? Because we've already talked about like any space could really be a makerspace. You're just kind of giving access to tools. Well, a garage is usually just one person's property, right? But a makerspace, we tend to have a lot of people in there. So the biggest part about a makerspace is the community, right? So without the community, makerspaces can't exist. We really rely on people coming in and using that equipment that we've already footed the bill for. We've already paid tons of money for, and we actually want you to come in and use it. Some of this equipment can cost anywhere from $600 to $25,000 plus, and we got it for you. We didn't get it for us. We want you to come use it, because if you don't come in, then there's no reason for us to be there. So really quickly, I also want to give you an idea. If you're not going to go to a makerspace, which I think you should, I want to give you a quick tour of a makerspace, which again is right across the street, actually where I work. So this area here, this is our commons area. You can actually just walk in, free admission. We don't charge anything for you to come in the building. And this space is literally just for you to hang out in. We want you to come in and activate the space. Just sit there, just play around. We have a bunch of stuff out throughout the area. So in our first zone, we actually have a bunch of laser cardboard cutout pieces for a free activity that encourage you just to go and to build and to make whatever you can think of. Even if it's this a silly, humanoid, weird looking thing like we have here, that's fantastic. Maybe take someone else's design, because everyone leaves their own designs there, and build off of it, iterate, make it your own. Kind of add to it and keep it growing. So in our second zone, we actually have what we call the making zone. So this is actually geared towards younger kids. Again, since we are actually right beside the Science Center, we have a lot of younger kids come in, and they can't always participate in our kind of more hands-on tool stuff. But what we do here is we've actually pre-laser cut out a bunch of tons of kits that they actually assemble little wooden toys, and then they get to decorate and everything. But also we haven't left out the adults, right? So we actually have lanterns for the adults so they can come in and decorate all types of lanterns and everything. And then also in that same space, it's actually a huge space, we actually have a demo stage. So the demo stage is where we do all kinds of little crazy things. We have projects set up, we have demonstrations obviously, and we have things going on all the time. Right now we have a little spinner up there that's actually, you actually ride the bike and actually turn this big kiddie pool that will sling paint all over the place, and you can put a piece of paper in there and kind of create this weird abstract piece of work. And then we're actually taking that piece of paper and actually laser cutting that out to make shapes and all kinds of fun stuff for that. And then of course, what we have in that same area is 4 little tables where we have set up just little things to play with. So we have little construction steps, we have like strawberries, we have other little construction steps, then we have things that we've actually made for you to play with. So we've actually 3D printed all these chess sets, we've laser cut the chessboard. We've got a game called Aggravation that's completely laser cut and has like little tokens. And then we have engram sets, and of course we have Legos and everything else. And then finally in the back we have our quote-unquote makerspace area. So we have 3 zones. The electronic zone is where we teach 3D printing, Arduino, laser cutting, graphics programs for CNC, and a few other things. Then on we have our Artistry Hub. Our Artistry Hub focuses more on more traditional things. We actually teach basic sewing there, so if you've never learned how to use a sewing machine, we will actually teach you how to use a sewing machine. So maybe even if you have one at home, you can then go home and actually utilize that thing that's just been sitting in the closet this whole time. Other than that, we have a little CNC mill, a heat press, embroidery machine, and all kinds of little things just in the Artistry Hub. And then our third place is actually the wood shop. So we have a full wood shop stocked with a large CNC mill. And the CNC mill, what I like to tell people is anything you've ever seen at IKEA, you can easily make on that machine. And it's a super easy machine to get into. You tell it exactly what to do, it will go cut out things and make whatever it is that you design. So aside from that, we actually have a lot of equipment that people still want. So we still don't have everything. We're trying to appease our community as best we can. We still don't have our metal shop, for example. And people are like, oh, I really want to do metal stuff. And we're trying to get there. We're trying to build up our supplies as much as we can. But we're also, ourselves, even as much as we have, we're limited on our funding as well. So what I want to leave you with is, one of the biggest things I find is with talking with people at my job is they often come in, especially if they're not from here, and be like, oh, I really wish I had this space where I was from. And often, honestly, they're from a place that has a makerspace. They just don't have any idea it exists. So if you're not from here, go back wherever you're from and just look around. There's probably a makerspace around you. And honestly, go to it. It's full of like-minded, creative people that want to make stuff. And honestly, anything that you see here, they would love to get their hands on so they can also be creative and they can make stuff just like everyone else here. Thanks.